Welcome back to the Yappening. It's definitely a voice-only edition because someone's house tried to catch on fire during a storm. So we're just doing audio for this one, and sorry if our audio is kind of weird because we're doing it with my setup, and my setup I would say is not the most professional. If you've never read this book before, we're going to spoil it entirely, so please go read it and come back. If you don't want it to be spoiled, we'll hit you up with the title after, and then if you have any triggers, the trigger warnings will be at the bottom. If it's something that is not quite your flow, then I would definitely see you in the next one.
All right, so today we are going to be doing Victorian Psycho by Virginia Feito. I don't know if I said that right, so sorry, I can't read. Yeah, perhaps. Anyways, so as previously mentioned, and always, please check the trigger warnings, very especially for this one. I'm going to try to not go straight into the graphic stuff, but honestly, I would say this is basically American Psycho, but making it Victorian, so take that how you would like.
So are we going to save the all the extreme stuff for the bloodening?
The bloodening, yeah.
The bloodening.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you know what? Some of the graphic depictions in this book, I don't even know that I could read to you guys because some of it is just, like, fucking icky as hell. Like, to the point where, like, it would definitely churn my tummy a little bit. And it, honestly, but we love Winifred because she's fucking out of pocket as hell. And just her observations are really great. So anyways, picture it. Yorkshire, early autumn, 1858. We are arriving at Ensor House, where our girl Winifred Naughty is about to meet her new employers, the Pounds. As Winifred is... Go on.
The Naughty and the Pounds?
Yeah, and then the...
Are you sure isn't this Monday?
Right. But then there's also Mr. and Mrs. There's like Fancy and Manners are other last names, which is why I'm so certain that none of the names in this book are actually... We're dealing with a first person, very clearly unreliable narrator, so chances are so good that like the other characters' names are not in fact their like actual
Just
names.
Like,
actual names, it's fiction, right? So, but
a nickname or moniker, like they're fancy, they're really obsessed with manners.
I personally took it to be that she just can't be bothered to remember their names.
Fair.
So she has just dubbed one Fancy and one Manners because, you know, one's fancy and one has manners, I guess. I don't know. Regardless, did you have a comment?
Not an observant one, just that I just know that, you know, when I'm in 1858, I don't bother remembering anyone's names.
That's true. That is so true. As Winifred approaches the doors of the house, she is telling us that her skirts sweep through the flowers with scythe-like gusto. She's just beautiful and poetic, but like also so fucking out of pocket constantly.
She's my spirit animal.
She is. Genuinely speaking, as I'm doing this, I'm like, I know I just gave Jessie a list of titles to pick from, but she picked the book that is so... You would not want to read this. I'm so certain of that. But just, yeah, I feel like this resonates for you, especially just because Homegirl's crazy. But like, in such an endearing way. That sounds really bad when we get into it, but whatever. Anyways, so she tells us that the cold is beginning to descend and that in 3 months' time, everyone in this house will be dead. She first meets with the housekeeper, Mrs. Abel, who has a wandering left eye. Winifred thinks to herself that she wishes she has a compass so she can determine which cardinal direction the eye points to most often. Yeah, so by now we can probably deduce that our girl Winifred here is not like other girls. She's a little strange and unusual. And let's see, she has arrived here to be the family's new governess. And just like our beloved Anne, Winifred is also doughy, and it comes up a lot. There's also a point where Winifred's talking about taking off her corset and like saying that her flesh falls like so aggressively she thinks she's gonna hear it slapping against the floor. I'm like, Queen, don't talk about your body like that. Anyways, okay, so she keeps it going with these wildly out-of-pocket observations. As Mrs. Abel is showing Winifred to her room, Winifred thinks to herself that Mrs. Abel is a woman who has likely never held a penis. Just the shocked look you just gave to me. But, like, yeah, you know, homegirl's crazy. So Winifred makes her way to check out her new view. She's looking out the window, and she describes the garden below the window as the ugliest of all Enser's gardens. But she tells us that it is vastly more agreeable than her childhood view of a rotted churchyard that, and I quote, looked like the inside of an old man's mouth. So she goes on down to, I think, like dinner table, lunch table type of moment, and she's meeting with Mr. and Mrs. of the house. And we learned that Winifred's father was a reverend, though he wasn't her real father, but a replacement that Winifred's mother, and that Winifred's mother has been deceased for 10 years. So Mrs. Pounds is disappointed to hear that Winifred's mom is dead. She feels that without a mother, our girl here wasn't able to have a sense of morality and tenderness. And, like, spoilers, no, she certainly does not, but, like, also, she was born like that, baby. Like, she was born this way, okay? So, let's see. The
Nature,
Mrs.
not lack of nurture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, nurture. So Mrs. then goes on to tell our girl that they had expected her to have better character than their last governess, who disappeared without a trace. Mr. Pounds quickly shuts down that line of conversation, basically saying that he's tired of speaking about the other governess.
The fuck he do to her?
Yeah. We don't know. It's never confirmed, but, like, most certainly there's, like, secret passageways in the walls hidden behind paintings and shit. Like, this man be getting up to some things, okay? Like, people just vanish. Also, like, we'll get there. But anyways, he then goes on to ask Winifred what she did to pass the time in the small town that she's from. She darkly tells him that there was an awful lot of dancing. She also has a good sense of humor, and we love that for her. But he scowls at her when she says this and says that he hopes that that was a joke, and she confirms it was in fact a joke. They did not dance in her small town. So Mrs. Pounds quickly cuts in, asking if that's where all those babies were murdered. And at this point, I am again going to encourage you to look at the trigger warnings if you decided to skip our 2 warnings ahead of time, okay, guys? Because, like, it's not going to get better from here.
So far we've got motherless child, motherless
behavior.
Motherless behavior.
Yes, disappearing babysitters, lack of dancing, dead babies, Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
Footloose.
Fancy free.
Sounds like what is it? Some type of fucking spring harvest festival the Fae do. I don't know.
Children of the Corn.
Children of the Corn.
Perhaps.
Shit.
Perhaps. All right. So
Children of the Cornwall.
The Cornwall.
I just know that's a British place.
It sure is. Also, you said pounds. I am thinking that that's probably related more so to money than anything else.
It makes sense. You said it right after
naughty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But our girl is naughty, okay? So, like,
Naughty Pounds is my
stage name.
my brief foray into the adult film industry name.
You just walked on set and then left. Right, so Mr. Pounds goes on to tell Winifred that they are hoping for her to instill a sense of strength and steadfast tradition in their children. But Mrs. very quickly tells Winifred that she's not okay with corporal punishment for children, and in fact, she prefers that Winifred not touch the kids at all. So Winifred simply smiles and tells them that she will not even dare to gaze upon the children. Mr. then goes...
So you can't even gaze at the children? So what are your stubbornness?
Winifred is she's being a goofball. She's like, cool, I won't even look at them. Don't even worry. Like, also...
I will ignore their cries for help.
You know what? So the missus telling her not to touch her kids is honestly... totally spot on. She really should not be around these children or any human beings, honestly. So let's see. Okay, so she won't be looking at the kids. Mr. then goes on to ask Winifred if she's familiar with the theory of phrenology, boasting that he's a scholar in the science of the mind. And I am now going to ask if you know what phrenology is.
I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming it's lobotomizing bitches.
So
I do know about phrenology.
Yeah, so phrenology is a pseudoscience from like the Victorian era, basically saying that it's kind of like hand reading, but for your skull. So like they would like feel out the bumps and measure your skull, and then they would allegedly be able to deduce like personality traits and intelligence based on the shape of your skull.
My skull be kind of interesting. I wonder if that states to my mental state.
You are interesting. That is truer words that have never been stated, honestly.
But then think about how people from different continents just have different,
yes,
like they look different in like the face because of how, you know, just their skulls come out, and then because their skulls are shaped a certain way, they're seen as lesser or less intelligent or
yeah,
anything. Like they're using it to encourage or what's the really bad thing?
Racism, stereotypes,
prejudices.
Sorry, like limiting breeding.
Oh, eugenics.
Eugenics. It's a eugenics thing. Thank you.
Can you imagine seeing somebody with like a uniquely shaped head and just being one of these people with this degree? If I was like, I'm like, oh, I just want to fucking touch it.
Honestly, Jessie wants to touch all the things all the time, especially if they're interesting looking. Me too, girl. Me too. And they like want me to wear compression leggings, which is fine, but I'm like, yo, I got sensory issues. I'm so not happy about that.
Did make compression fishnets.
That would look like one of those stress toys.
It would actually.
My fantasy.
I know.
Oh my god.
Okay, guys.
Get yourself a husband like that.
You know what? We love a man that supports doughiness. Okay, so Winifred isn't going to touch the kids. Phrenology. Mr. Pounds then goes on to comment that Winifred's skull looks promising, going on to say that such a broad forehead, she must be housing prominent organs of benevolence.
What a loaded compliment.
Right, absolutely. So
he speaks the bullshit.
Absolutely. So after this incredibly odd meeting, Winifred returns to her room. We learn that she never knew her father. Her mother wouldn't give her a lot of info on him, but when Winifred was 6, her mother moved to a small town, pretending to be a widow, where her mother then married the Reverend. So she essentially never really got a straight answer. She was first told that, like, her dad was dead, and then just kind of thing is more or less what was happening. But anyways, mom pretended to be a widow and shacked up with the Reverend. So, let's see.
Luckily she wasn't living in a time where saying that your father was the devil was like an actual thing.
Right.
Like, you know, the 50s where it's like, oh no, we believe the devil exists, and
right.
I fucked him.
It's like, your dad's the devil, so I must marry a reverend.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, this was 1858, so they're like, the devil? Oh yeah, absolutely a metaphor, not an actual thing. And these people who believe in phrenology believe in the devil.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm picking up what you're putting down there. Okay, let's see. Okay, the only thing Winifred remembers about her mother's wedding is a small dead duckling on the steps of the church. She noted that the hem of her mother's finest dress brushed the duckling from the steps, and then they left the church. So that's like the only memory she has of the wedding as a 6-year-old, was looking at this dead duck.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so before getting into bed, Winifred pulls back the sheets to hers. She is satisfied that there are no monsters except for the ones she carries inside of her. In the morning, Winifred is getting dressed for the day. She makes sure to tell us that she has checked her pockets to make sure that they still contain the button and the 3 fingernails. What
kind of hoodoo shit is this?
Homegirl's a little strange, okay? So anyways, after heading downstairs, yeah, okay, I'm like, the next scene is, honestly, if the fingernails upset you. But,
I mean, I got nail clippers in my pocket right now, so I just can imagine her being like, okay, I only get through a couple of my nails, so I'm going to keep the fingernails in my pocket to remind myself to finish clipping my nails later.
You misunderstand. She
I
has
probably do.
full human fingernails that are not hers in her pocket.
It's like the whole bed.
Like, she ripped off someone's fingernail and just was like, this is my little keepsake.
She's got
A serial killer?
Perhaps. Only time will tell.
Serial,
Keepsakes.
spree killer, length between kills.
Yeah. And, well, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, okay? So, anyways, after... Spree reel. After heading downstairs, Winifred passes through the kitchen where she sees a whole plucked chicken and a calf's head sitting in the kitchen. Winifred picks up the calf's head and begins to whisper "good boy" in its ear. She then tells us that her mother taught her that this is how she should always handle animals and small children.
But if the cow, so shouldn't it be good?
I guess yeah, because only cows are. It's like a baby cow, like a calf.
No, but cows are female. Bulls
No,
are...
I understand, but we only have the head. I don't know that we can deduce which is which, right? Except that it is, in fact, a youngin, adolescent.
I guess I don't know how much we eat bulls versus, or I guess medieval England ate bulls versus cows.
You're really diffusing the tension here of the situation.
I'm doing the best I can.
Probably good for our audience.
Probably. Anyways, so she's
I'm also very salty with a whole bunch of insurance.
salty assholes.
No, I wish, because no one will get back to me in a timely fashion, which is why I'm so salty in the first place.
We haven't had power for a fucking week, and we don't have a refrigerator. We're just living in the dark, and honestly, reading by candlelight every single night is such a fucking vibe. I'm so not mad at it. I am mad that I have to stop at my mother's house to pick up food that I have stored in her refrigerator before taking it home, and I can't cook anything that would require an oven, and that is upsetting for me. Okay, so... that she should always caress small animals and children and whisper either good boy or girl, whichever is applicable to them. She is gazing into this calf's eyes, and then she chomps into its snout. Noting that it is plump and pink tasting, it is at this moment that the cook walks into the kitchen and asks her what the fuck is happening. Winifred quickly drops the calf's head on the floor and responds, "Oh, sorry, are we not allowed to eat the children?" So the cook very nervously laughs, personally picturing this as the scene from Veep at the barbecue, you know?
What the fuck?
Yes.
As a movie.
Right.
I don't want to read it. I want to see it.
Yeah. I mean, certainly.
Get Christian Bale back to play Winifred.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. You know what? Vibes.
Willem Dafoe's the cook.
Willem Dafoe?
Willem.
Oh my god.
Anyways, so as the cook is nervously laughing, Winifred attempts to mirror the shape of the cook's mouth, and she tries to mimic the laugh, but instead she just kind of gurgles. And this will happen repeatedly. Like, Winifred will be watching someone experience an emotion, and she will try to mimic their face. So that is really probably telling us a lot of things about her.
It's telling me she struggles with emotional regulation, and she was taught from a very young age to watch facial expressions.
Yeah, lean this way. Pretend like you like me. Everybody's
That's
trying
right.
to... Do I smell bad? What's going
Wait,
on,
you
guys?
smell bad.
Okay, anyways.
It still picks up. But
No, I was just was like almost flat.
You just reminded me of like an indie horror game I saw at one point where you're playing as like psychopath, sociopath, one of those things. But like the character's face is on screen, and you need to adjust the face to display the emotion in order to blend in.
I hate that.
But your face is kind of constantly falling, like back to a neutral position.
Wait, what is this?
It was an indie horror game I saw
I
a
need
while
to
back.
watch it. Oh my god, that sounds so cool.
I will try to find it because that's a really cool idea. It's like, oh, pretending to be happy, and then you need to like kind of bring your mouth down because you don't want to be too happy. This person is crying. It's going to look very strange. I just thought that was a really cool idea, and this was years ago. I don't remember how it turned out.
Yeah. Okay.
I will find it. I will name it.
I hope you do, honestly. Okay, so she kind of gurgles from her throat, and she notes to herself that she's obviously failed. She feels like she sounds like she's on the edge of hysteria. Winifred then picks up the head from the floor on the table before laughing and saying that she doesn't know what possessed her. At this point, the cook definitely gets a little bit more comfortable, but then starts talking to her like she's a moron and was like, "We can't eat it yet. It's not ready." Like, as if this bitch thought she could eat, like, a whole fucking cow head. Anyways, so...
That attitude.
Right. At this point, Mrs. Pounds comes into the kitchen to collect Winifred to come to the table for breakfast. At the table, Mrs. Pounds complains about how cold and ugly the house is, stating that the home in London was much nicer. Mr. Pounds scolds his wife, telling him that his great uncle had to die in order for them to have this house, and that she should be grateful. And it's honestly an odd choice of words, that he had to die, almost like someone perhaps expedited that process.
So, like, the missing governess.
Yes, absolutely. What?
Oh, I was just...
Oh, are you writing down
I was making
predictions?
a note of something.
Okay.
I if it wasn't already, like, kind of obvious that something is afoot, wouldn't think anything of he had to die. I feel like that's kind of, like, standard wording, but you are the one that kind of pointed out that he had to die.
Yeah, I think it's not he had to die. I think it's like, it would be more of like, my uncle died for to give us this house, or so, you know, like, just not had to die, but like he died.
There's definitely better ways to put it that makes you seem
Right.
less suspicious.
Right.
I just think inherently it's not suspicious as is.
Well, I mean,
think it's suspicious.
You know better than I do.
I would say the had to, and like, again, really confirmed in this book, other than just what we can...
Man, you know how to use words.
Correct. Yeah, we can more or less deduce what he's putting down there. All right. So as this conversation is transpiring, Winifred is nomming on a sheep's kidney. She says that it is brown and charred, resembling a shriveled scrotum, and she can't help but grunt in satisfaction as she's swallowing it. She has a lot of weird shit with food, and I was like, if I put every single weird thing she does with food in this, I will never leave Jesse's home, and I would like to leave because it's a sauna in here.
I'm
teasing you.
Processing my plant would fucking thrive.
I know, man. It's wild. I feel like a butterfly. All right, so Mrs. Pounds tells Winifred that they expect her to have their son Andrew prepared for boarding school by the end of the year, noting that he is a bright boy, and Mrs. Pounds does not consider this to be an unreasonable request. Mr. Pounds explains that their daughter Drusilla is to have a less rigorous, and I quote, "She is at an age where her fertility could be at risk from the ravages of overeducation," which honestly just sounds like an excerpt from Project 2025, if you ask me. So, upon meeting Andrew, he asks Winifred if he may call her Winnie. She tells him no, but that he can call her Fred. He's absolutely horrified about this because that's not a lady's name, so how dare he call her Fred? She then just simply tells him that Fred is inside of her. Andrew explains to Fred that she is going to be his last governess, which is true and not in the ways that he thinks. He explains to her that the last one had abandoned them. Fred tells the children that she will never abandon them unless they did something awful, which is so fair, honestly. At this point, we should really have a sense that whatever Fred would be considered to be awful must be absolutely wildly heinous at this point, just considering her standards of what normal behavior seems to be. And you're right, nomming into a calf snout. Just
full fingernails in your pocket.
Ass fingernails.
And like, either she's actually possessed by a demon, or she has DID, like split personality disorder, dissociative.
I'm speculating that it's more of just her not being able to like blend in, her psychopathy, sociopathy. She is making a joke that is not going to land.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
that's more so what it is.
Like,
Gotcha.
imagine starting a new job, but first person you talk to, you say that there's a demon inside you. You don't know this person. They don't know you. They don't know your sense of humor or lack of.
And this is why I'm so incredibly quiet around people I don't know, because like, not that I'm saying that I say crazy shit like this, but I do have a really weird sense of humor, and like,
I observe
it. Yeah. So yeah. I'm just quiet, and I speak when spoken to. Mm-hmm. All right, so...
I don't even do that.
Oh, there's also, like, a couple other things that happen in this. And so, like, throughout, like, the monsters living inside of her, the demon inside of her, there's a point where Mr. Pounds tells her that it seems like every time he feels her head, it's, like, changed shapes, like something's living in her. I thought this was going to be a werewolf book. Like, as someone who, like, reads books on vibes only, like, there are, like, a handful of TikTokers that I I've read books that they've recommended and I've loved them. So basically at this point, I don't even get a summary of what they suggest. If they say I'm going to like it, I'm probably going to like it because I've liked everything else they've said. So this was one of those like blind reads, 3 of them that I really like. And they were like, this is a really good book. And I was like, it sure is. You know what? Crazy.
Ballsy move for Victorian Psycho to suddenly have a werewolf in it.
Right. I thought, yeah, yes. Okay, so Andrew then takes Fred to go see the family portraits, noting that Grandfather Pounds loved to entertain children, specifically young boys. It should be at this point that we understand that not a single person in this book is right in their head.
I'm kind of on the cook side.
Yeah.
The cook sounds like the only normal motherfucker.
You know what?
Here.
Yeah, the people working within the house are certainly normal. Also to like the point where like there's one point where everybody's sitting around like telling a ghost story and Fred just comes in and tells a story and then they just look at her and go, "We don't like you."
So by Fred you mean like Winifred, like as a whole person, not a separate
Yeah,
personality.
so I just really didn't want to say Winifred like every 30 seconds.
Oh, no,
so
totally.
Cool, Fred, you my bitch. Except not really. Please don't come near me.
I mean, okay, Winifred, Fred, same person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Mm-hmm. It's one person. It's she's just a little kooky, you know. Just a little special.
Because I don't really have a problem with the kid so far. Like, I know we've only met the one.
Yeah.
And he's seemed normal other than, Grandpa liked, hanging out with young boys.
I mean, they're about as normal as, like, young, wealthy children could possibly be, which is not at all normal.
Totally fair.
But, like, their unusualness is, the audacity. It's not really, it's the entitlement and the audacity. It's not actually that they are weird and unusual, or perhaps they are. Who's to say? Because there's the end of the book is who is real, what is happening. So later that night, Andrew demands that Fred tell him a bedtime story. She regales him of the story of the first children that she was a governess for. We learn here that her first charges were twin girls. She would tie their hands together at bedtime, and by tie their hands together, I don't mean tie them to each other. I mean tie their hands to themselves and then tie their hands to the headboard at night. And
that's not creepy.
She was actually, the dad asked her to do that because one of the kids scratched her skin a lot and he was worried that it was going to spread to the other one, so both of them just had to have their hands bound at night. Again, nobody is right here.
I highly doubt that they made it to adulthood, but that's just gonna open them up to some fun things in the bedroom.
She then goes on to tell the children that one day after good health and cheer, the girls dropped dead mid-French lesson.
There it is.
She very fondly remembers that the blood smeared in their hair. She remembers the way the blood looked smeared in their hair, saying that their braids were so neat, it was as if each strand of hair had been hand-painted.
But they dropped dead?
Reliable narrator.
Okay, I'm just...
Yeah, no, the story as told is that the kids were sitting there in their French lesson and they face planted on their desks and they were toast.
Okay.
But then she goes on to tell us, the readers, that their hair was like covered in blood, and she just remembers thinking that their braids looked like they were hand painted. So this is where we really should be picking up that she is in fact an unreliable narrator.
Okay, just I trust you as a yapper, but we're kind of like summarizing things here. I know you did this kind of like quickly. So, and also ADHD, whatever else I got going wrong in my head. Not wrong, just going on.
You're gonna bite some cows' noses?
I don't even know where I would find a cow. Like an actual cow. I know we got stuffed ones everywhere. But no, I didn't know if I could have missed something, you could have misspoke. So just for sake of completeness. Yeah,
for sure.
It's really hard. It's like, I trust you, but things were kind of like quick. I'm really messy in the head and also unreliable narrator. Oh, this is going to be this episode is going to be 3 times as long as it should.
Yep. No, but this whole entire book, she's very much just speaking directly to us. When she sits down with the parents for the first time, the dad basically says, like, so you're Winifred Naughty? And she says, and I wink to you, dear readers, because this is the first time I've been introduced. And it's like, I love you. You're so strange. But also, don't ever come near me, please. So, let's see. While Fred is telling the children the story, she thinks to herself that she knows Andrew is the type of child who won't allow itself to be taught, noting that he is angry but far too lazy to do anything dangerous about it. After Andrew has fallen asleep, Drusilla asks Fred to tell her a story. Wait, hang on. Drusilla asks Fred why she left her last family, and Fred quickly explains that the children grew up and no longer needed her. Drew digs a little bit deeper, asking about the family before that, and Fred tells Drew that the children went missing. They were prone to run off. So basically, she lied about the last kids because, you know, we just learned that she came from a town where a bunch of babies died, so perhaps she maybe had something to do with that.
She was no longer needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Grew up into a daisy. So Drew then requests a story about her future husband. Fred begins to tell Drew that she will marry a very rich man. Literally, after this like sentence leaves her mouth, Drew is fucking asleep. So Fred leans in incredibly close to Drew's ear, thinking to herself that this is closer than she could ever possibly get to her while she is awake. And she says, to finish out the story, he will have coarse hands and smelly hair, and Drew will trust him with her sadness. He will lock her in a yellow bedroom where she will bleed onto her child bed. The staff will remember her as melancholy. So very yellow wallpaper coated. Also, Nick looks horrified. As well he should.
Bleeding onto, like, the child bed. Mm-hmm. And then, what was it? The staff would remember her as melancholy. That is, like, just a very good line. Dark as hell.
This is so beautifully written. Yeah. And there was another book floating around by this author that I don't even need to know what it is. I just need to know that she wrote it because I'm absolutely going to be reading it. Like, there's definitely a couple authors that I'm very much, like, locked my talons into. Like, the lady who wrote Cora Zhang, a new book just came out, Japanese Gothic, and I'm like, add to cart immediately. So let's see. All right. After finishing the story up, Fred then licks both of the children's fingertips one by one each, and then she blows out the candles and goes to bed.
She's not supposed to touch them!
She can lick them, though, I guess. I don't know.
I just picture her in court being, I said touch, that is one single sentence. Taste is another sentence entirely, so
God,
I'm doing nothing
that's
wrong.
A great argument, actually. Wait.
There we go. Nick the lawyer, the psychopathy lawyer.
I mean, no, but unfortunately, I think that I probably would have been a good lawyer if the guy on TikTok who asks question from the bar exam is any indication, as I have gotten 5 of the 6 that I've seen right.
Good for you, baby. Get that law degree.
And I'm pretty sure it has something to, like, it comes down to the
Tism.
Exactly, because one of the questions, we're getting off track here, but hey, we're yapping. One of the questions was like, you are, or your client, works at a convenience store, sold alcohol to someone who has a fake ID, but a very good, almost indistinguishable fake ID. He gets arrested, and then the question was about whether the clerk knew, like, really knowing or not knowing has nothing to do with what actually happened. So it was like a very technical question, which I latched onto, and everyone who seemingly had TISM latched onto. So I think that, yeah, it's looking for those little arguments like the Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright.
Okay.
Like, just pointing out, like, that single word is, like, the key to everything. Objection.
Got it.
Danganronpa, too.
Yes.
She's familiar with Danganronpa.
Yes.
I'm sure you know of Phoenix Wright. We just never got around to those.
Perhaps. I don't know. Anyways, so the next morning, Fred takes the children for a walk. While on the walk, Andrew notices a nest of eggs. Fred notes that all 3 of the eggs are cold to the touch and have likely been abandoned. She then points out to the children that one of the eggs in the nest is a cuckoo's egg. It is brown while the other 2 are blue. Fred
where this is going.
You sure do. Fred explains that cuckoos are a brood parasite. As Fred is explaining how cuckoos work, she is cradling and stroking the cuckoo egg very gently. She then picks up one of the blue eggs and smashes it in her hand. They then come across a deer. At first, they believe the deer to be dead because it's just kind of laying super, super still. So Fred very gently creeps up to said deer and sits next to its head. She then notices the deer move ever so slightly, so she begins to very slowly and calmly reach for a rock. She then grabs the rock. Andrew begins to tell Fred, wait, I think that deer's not dead. But Fred is already actually smashing the deer's skull in. She is correcting the fact that the deer is not in fact dead.
She's a psychopath.
Perhaps.
And that was the first ever game, although very different from how we know it, of Smash or Pass.
I don't love that.
I think that's great for Fred's point of view.
Good for Fred, honestly. Okay, so she goes a little overboard with the deer. She basically stops smashing the deer in the face when she notices that the children's face and clothes are completely covered in flecks of gore. So by the time Fred is finished, she very quickly tells the children that they should never let an animal be in pain. It's always the best thing to do to kill it. Andrew tells Fred that he didn't think that the deer was in pain, but she assures him that the deer was in fact in pain. So later, Fred tells us that she doesn't see very much of Mr. Pounds. He's often away or hidden behind closed doors. She says that he is a mystery that she is intent on solving. One day she passes by him in the hall. He very quickly asks her if she would like to join him on a walk around the grounds. Before answering, she takes in his appearance. She tells us that she doesn't suppose he is a handsome man, noting that he has a wide forehead, eyes too close together, and his nose is too delicate. And let's see, she does say that she sees a bit of herself in him, and that she feels that he has a naughty twinkle in his eye and an empty grin. During said walk, he tells her that she's a credit to her sex, and immediately after this, he adjusts the crotch of his pants. Fred tells us that their walks have now become a weekly occurrence. One day...
The just imagery I got from that, I'm just like, dude, bro.
Yeah. One day Fred is looking out her window and she sees a young maid out in the garden. She notes that the maid is crying. Fred attempts to mirror the look of anguish on the maid's face. She also notices that the gardener is standing near the maid looking around to make sure that no one is watching them. We don't know what happens beyond that exact... Oh, there will be a new maid very shortly, so perhaps we can deduce that something has happened to this maid.
We got 2 murderers in the same fucking house. Butcher and Blackbird, anyone?
Right. So Fred is unable to summon tears while attempting to mimic this maid's face. She then goes on to tell us that her mother had her examined as a baby because she never cried. Her mother feared Fred might be half dead. So Fred tells us that crying often stems from fear, and she realized when she was 16 that she is unable to be afraid. All right, kids. So she came to this realization one day when she saw a man wandering. She was home alone, 16. She waited by the front door for the man to knock because she had seen him peeping in through the windows all day long, and she didn't know how best to approach him. So she figured she would just stand and stare at the front door until he eventually came up and knocked on the door, which he does, in fact, knock on the door. The first thing she notices when she opens the door to him is that his tongue is falling from his mouth. She believed that he looks as if he was in dire need of water. The man asked if the Reverend lived there, and when Fred confirmed that he does live here, the man enters the house. He's standing in the foyer. He's cradling his arm. She notes that it was likely mauled by a dog, and if we've seen Old Yeller, we know where this is going. And by the state of his arm, she says that it was likely some time ago that he had this altercation. She also goes into heinous fucking detail describing what this wound looks like.
He has rabies?
Yeah. So she explains that the Reverend is actually out. He has gone to another town. He might return later that night, but someone is currently dying, and so that is where he is. The man then begins to slam his head into the wall. She watches him do this until the dry thumps turn into wet slaps. The man then begins drooling everywhere. Fred looks away, and then all of a sudden she feels a sudden pain in her arm. She then notices that the man's teeth are sunken into her arm. She takes a moment to reflect on how to best handle the situation, and she then remembers that her father keeps a gun in his room, quote, presumably to feel safer sleeping in the same house as her. The man then begins to fully chew on her arm. She then rules the gun out as impractical, as her father always keeps the door locked, probably so she can't access said gun, and she doesn't know where the key is. So at this point, the man has released his grip on her arm and begins to vomit on the floor. She grabs a lead weight out of the grandfather clock in the foyer, and she begins to bludgeon him. She manages to hit him in the head twice before she slips in the blood that's on the floor. The man then takes her pausing from hitting him to leave the house. He just runs off and flees. So she at this point goes into the kitchen, grabs a kitchen knife, and uses it to clean away the shredded flesh before she then takes a hot iron and seals the wound herself. She remembers the pain taking her by surprise, which then sent her into a laughing fit. She still wonders what it's like to have fear. She calls it a poison, stating that it eats away your hope, ambitions, and self, and she believes that fear must be the worst thing in the world. And honestly, that's an astute observation, I'd say. Fear is not so cute. But also neither is what Fred has going on, so
I
you know.
Just imagine her when she's trying to find something that's not a gun. She's like, "This will do."
Yeah. Also, just a man is chewing on her arm, and she's just like, "What should I do? What's going on?"
La 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 la.
Well, Fred, you got yourself into another sticky situation. How are we gonna get out of this one?
Right. Also, when he pukes on the floor, she thinks to herself that she's really happy that the Reverend removed all of the rugs from the house, so it was going to be easier for her to clean up. And
It's so fucking fair, though.
Right, but the Reverend removed the rugs after her mother's accident, so it is also heavily implied that perhaps Fred killed her mother by, I don't know, making her trip on a rug, or
implications.
So many implications. So, side note, because I'm fully focusing on Fred, because we really love an unhinged doughy queen, there is a side quest here where the missus of the house thinks that the servants are conspiring against her, and or that they believe that she's ugly.
Same thing.
Yeah, no, the gardener brought in a certain type of flower, and she's like, the flowers are kind of wilty. Does that mean he thinks I'm ugly? She's just really fucking wild, honestly. Again, nobody in this house is right in their mind.
That's the only thing you have to worry about.
Right, I know. Well, also, she's married to that man. But anyways, whenever she's kind of going into these tangents that oh, so-and-so thinks I'm ugly, or the servants talk about me, etc., Mr. basically he just kind of waves her off, and at one point he even threatens to call the doctor on her. He's like, you should probably stop talking like that, otherwise we're gonna have to call the doctor again.
My love, it doesn't matter if you're ugly or not. I married you. What anyone else thinks doesn't mean anything.
Right.
I love your ugly ass anyways.
I know. And
that's awful.
Sorry, ugly buttocks.
Yeah, we love a supportive man.
Also, I just want to, Pounds. It's Mr. Pounds, will you take me to town?
You would find every excuse in the world to say that. To honestly everybody with that name in that house, except the children. Yeah, not those. Okay, so anyways, after one of the pervy dinners that Fred has with the Pounds, because Mr. Pound is consistently staring at her boobies, even though it's Victorian era, so realistically he can't see anything, but he's eyeballing her constantly over the dinner table.
It's not a corset situation.
I don't imagine. What? Well, no, because she has a homemade cotton corset, so I can't imagine. Well, also corsets like that, I don't think that they were really just out here to do your titties justice like that.
No, I think it was mostly to flatten everything to make that curve, like, in your head.
Hourglass?
The pigeon. No, the pigeon. The pigeon body, like the pigeon stance. So, like, Victorian women would add a lot of volume in their chest, but, like, fully at their chest, not just, like, in their titty area.
Mm-hmm.
And then their hips would be tilted backwards, and they'd have, like, the bigger bustles on their butt.
Mm-hmm.
So they looked like a pigeon. It is a thing.
No, I'm having a mental image. I will show you later.
Okay, can't wait. Anyway, so after one pervy dinner, Mrs. asks Fred to join her upstairs. Mrs. heads into the children's room where she notices muddy paw prints on Andrew's bed. She's not pleased with this. She has instructed Fred to make sure that the animals stay out of the children's room. She then tells Fred that if Fred isn't horrified by the muddy paw prints and the thought of an animal sleeping in her son's bed, then perhaps Fred should just go sleep with the animals. So at this point, Mrs. Pound walks her out to the dog kennel and instructs Fred to crawl inside, and she locks her in the dog kennel for the night.
You're not gonna have dogs in the morning.
Well, I mean, they do. Although he's a big old stinky dog, and he's, like, taken up the whole entire crate. And she's like, this isn't as bad as, like, some of the servants are, like, having to sleep in, and at least the dog's warm.
I know, I would like cuddling the dog.
Yeah.
I got water here. That's a plus.
Right.
And because she can drink it because she don't got rabies.
Absolutely. But yeah, anyways, so Mrs. Pounds, at one point tells Fred that she should just be happy that they decided to purchase a large dog kennel. The next morning, Fred is telling us about the first time her mother tried to kill her. She was just 13 months old. Her mother later went on to explain that Fred learned to walk so quickly, and her mother thought it was best to stop her while she still could. So her mother tried again to kill her when she was 3 years old. She had put Fred into a foster home. The foster mother kept the children dosed with laudanum. Anytime they would begin to wake up or move, she would come over and put more laudanum in their mouth. Fred remembers one day her mom coming to visit her, and her and the foster mother getting into a brawl. The foster mother basically says, take your big weird baby with you, and, like, leave. But the reason that Fred's mother put her in said foster home was because her mom was working as a servant, and that if Fred stayed with her, her mom wouldn't be able to stay there. And it is heavily implied later in the book that that particular house Fred's mom was working in was her father's. So, like, her mom must have returned to work for her father, and he was like, get that demon baby out of here. So... All right. So anyways, that night after the mother sneaks Fred into the house, her mom grabs a butter knife and, a bread knife and stabs Fred in the shoulder. Her mother explains to Fred that she knows it's not Fred's fault that she is an evil soul wrapped in darkness. Her mother then goes on to explain that it isn't her fault that she wishes to rid the world of said evil, because she's the one that brought it into it. So she's like, it's not your fault you're evil, and it's not my fault that I have to stop you. More or less is the gist of what her mom said to her as a 3-year-old. So anyways.
Why to most respectfully, given the era this is, if this is, I know, unreliable narrator, but if her mom is actually trying to kill her, why didn't she finish the damn job?
Yeah, you know.
Because she's only...
I mean, yeah.
crafting more evil, or, like, or teaching somebody who doesn't have emotional regulation that this is how you deal with things.
For sure. No,
Yeah.
You're definitely not incorrect on that. Yeah, I don't know. Her mom, I guess, half-asses things.
What I'm about to say is purely for a joke and not to be taken seriously. That was prime child-killing days.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
They came down with a...
I get what you're saying.
With a cough. They sneezed once and suddenly they were gone. Just like previous houses she allegedly worked at. She ran off never to be seen again. She was taken by, let's say, Romani. Like... You could do whatever you want.
Why? No.
The kids became the covey, part of the covey.
Like, say whatever you want about the kids, and people just have to believe you, because is anyone going to investigate? No.
Right.
They're too busy with I almost said Spring Heel Jack, which was a thing, but Jack the Ripper, and nothing else.
Yes. So another side quest in the book here, the mister of the house brings a painter into the house in order to have portraits of his wife done. I guess this is to like placate her because she thinks she's ugly. After the session, after the painting session is done, Fred stumbles upon the fully adult painter hidden away with Drusilla. How old is she, you may be wondering? She's 13. She's 13. She's 13 years old.
I wasn't wondering. I was just... No, bad.
Yeah. So anyways, that's going to become a bit of a thing a little bit later, which is why I mentioned here presently.
I also, again, total joke. This is not the right subject matter, but just for the sake of trying to alleviate some tension... I do not believe there's ever been a 13-year-old named Drusilla. They start at like...
That's like Karen.
Yeah, Drusilla start at like 50 and only go up from there.
I really like that name though. Drusilla.
That's crazy.
It's really pretty.
I mean...
I think it's pretty.
For me, it feels spooky, but that's because I grew up on Buffy.
Actually, I work with Drusilla, and I always forget her name because I just think of Gruntilda.
Gruntilda?
I think that's from Banjo-Kazooie.
Okay,
I don't know why I confuse Gruntilda with Drusilla.
That's crazy work, honestly.
I can call my daughter Drew, and then I can call her Scylla.
Once she reaches 50, you can call her Drusilla.
Yeah! Like, you have now grown into your name, my child.
It's like Elizabeth. Up until 4 or 5, they're Elizabeth. Then they're Liz, Lizzie, Lizard. However they choose. And then once they hit 35, they're Elizabeth again.
Yes, absolutely. Everyone knows the evolutions of Elizabeth. The
Digivolutions. Sometimes it just goes right back to the small form.
Yes, absolutely.
I forget what they're called. I haven't watched Digimon in a long time.
I don't... Digital monsters.
Oh, sorry.
Anyways, so Fred goes on to tell us that she is fascinated by the new maid, because there is in fact a new maid. Upon meeting her, Fred wants nothing more than to lick the woman's face. She spends her time following the maid around the house and spying on her.
She has a little lesbian crush.
Yeah, and every time Fred rings the bell for something to be brought to her or the children, it's always this new maid, and she's like, it's as if she wants to come see me. So anyways, Fred then tells us that she's not used to having friends because clearly stalking a maid is equivalent to friendship. She explains that friendships very rarely last for her, and I can't imagine why. Meow. Sorry. She then goes on to tell us about the incident at school. After her mother passed away, Fred was sent to a boarding school that was specifically for daughters of clergy members. She tells us that the girls' school seemed very wary of her. They refused to meet her eyes or allow themselves to be touched. Fred notes that one girl in particular had a very large mole on her face and that Fred had tried to taste it once.
Tactile.
Yeah,
her tongue.
absolutely.
Lick tile.
Yes.
Tile.
She tells us that the Reverend was very excited about having sent her to boarding school, but after said incident, he went to great lengths to hide the fact that she had ever even attended said boarding school. What was the incident, you may wonder? She tells us that it was a terrible fuss that was really made of the whole thing. Basically, this was an incident that could have happened to anyone. I don't understand why such a big deal was made of it.
Too much ado.
Yes, absolutely. About a lot. So one days at boarding school, the girls were working to make a doll to give to one of the teachers that was about to retire. And Fred was sitting at the table picking scabs off and stuffing them inside said doll. She then glances out a window where she sees a crow sitting in a tree. The crow keels over and falls out of the tree dead. She feels like the crow did this intentionally for her to have said crow.
It's a sign.
Right. The girls were not allowed to roam the grounds, which is probably wise, since we know what the Spence girls were getting up to. So Fred had to wait until the warden passed out after having her bedtime sherry. So Fred sneaks out into the night. She grabs the crow, she brings it inside, and she tells us that she snuggles with the crow, petting its feathers. She did this because the other girls refused to let her pet them. And during the day, she would stash the crow under the floorboards. Eventually,
I kind of feel bad for her, though. But wait.
I get it, but, like, also...
This is why I have to be careful with the friends I make.
It sure is, girl. Yeah. That's a little frightening for you.
No.
Anyways, one day the crow began to stink, and Fred feels like it's not necessarily that bad of a stink. She feels like it can probably be played off as just like unwashed, smelly girls. But she does decide that she will do something with the crow. So one day she intentionally fails an assignment in order to be sent to get something for the teacher to flog her with. And instead she sneaks into the bedroom and pulls the crow up out from under the floorboards. She then goes into the kitchen where like lunch is being laid out because the girls are about to have lunch. And she basically takes the crow and like not only does she like hide it amongst the food, but she's like flicking like crow pieces into everything that's on the table. Yeah. So later at lunch after being flogged, Fred sits there and is watching all of the girls dig into their lunch. She's waiting for her friend the crow to make its appearance. Later that night, panic set in as every single girl at that school got incredibly ill except Fred. So basically everyone at first thinks that a cholera outbreak happened, and then when they realize that Fred isn't getting sick, they're like, okay, she very clearly did something.
Bitch, I was getting flogged.
And like Fred goes into horrific graphic detail to like discuss how ill these girls are, and like spoons were needed to clean the floorboards type of level of nasty. But she also says that she really liked that time because she was the only girl that was still healthy. The other girls let her like touch them, not in like a sexy way, soothe them while they're being sick and stuff like that. Yeah. So she actually remembers this as like a fond memory.
I mean, at least she turned to a psychopath and not Munchausen's by proxy.
Yeah, sure. The school basically calls the Reverend, and when they tell him what happened, he just kind of sighs. So they take this as like okay, she very clearly did this. So they basically tell Fred that she needs to leave immediately. Fred goes on to tell us that one day with Mr. Pounds, he's measuring her skull, and he's astounded to notice that her measurements match his exactly. He tells her that they must be perfect counterparts. We then go on to learn that Fred's mother hid secret letters from her bio dad. She recalls the Reverend finding the letters and ripping them up and throwing them into a fire. She remembers the Reverend shouting that her father was the devil and that the letters prove it. Later that night, she goes and she finds the pieces of the letters in the fireplace. They had not burned, so she takes the pieces and sews them back together, and so she still has the letters that she likes to read fondly. Let's see. So, as she's reading the letter, she's telling us that in the letters, her father tells her mother to end her, being Fred. He then goes on to tell her mother not to contact him again, or he will find her and kill her and Fred. So, like, when the mom doesn't kill Fred, he's like, okay, don't speak to me ever again. Mrs. Pounds finds secret letters from the painter that he has sent to her 13-year-old daughter. This causes the Pounds to then just completely ignore Drusilla and pretend like she doesn't exist.
That's the solution.
And Mr. Pounds very aggressively, anytime Drusilla is within earshot, begins either directly praising Andrew or telling people around him that Andrew's the apple of his eye and he's so happy to get to be his father type of thing.
Because that's the reaction.
Yeah, so one day Fred lures Andrew out to the horse stable. She coaxes him to enter the stall of Mr. Pound's prized stallion. She tells Andrew that she has hidden something from him within the stall and that he needs to go find it. He crawls into the stall around the horse. He very excitedly finds a missing toy of his. As he is bringing the toy out of the stall, he's standing directly behind the horse, looking at the toy, very excited.
Nope.
Fred then begins to sneak up to the horse and bites its ass, causing the horse to kick Andrew directly in the shoulder, sending him face first into the ground. Fred tells us that his 2 front teeth would remain black until the day he died, which is coming up shortly. So the next day, Mrs. Pounds explains to Fred that after the new year, Fred would be leaving their employment. Fred is very much unraveling at this point. She is fully hallucinating. There's a point where like a bunch of ladies come over to the house and one of the ladies has like a newborn, and like Fred takes the newborn up to the bed and then fully hallucinates this baby like shit talking her and like fully roasting the fuck out of her.
I want to see this in a movie.
Right. So she decides she's going to do something about said baby that I will not get into because I said I wasn't going to tell you guys the gory details. But it did, in fact, lead Fred to run out to a nearby farm and pick up a random baby she found and bring it back. So I think we can probably deduce how that ended.
Is
also,
this like a changeling situation where she just...
The mother didn't even fucking notice that her chubby little healthy baby became an emaciated baby. Didn't even notice. But yes, it is in fact a changeling thing.
Well, I'm sure she paid so little attention to it, and that's all the nanny governess his job.
You would be correct. And like Fred didn't even check to make sure it was the correct gender. She just saw a baby as she was running through the woods, and she was like, "That'll do." So, anyways,
I doubt the mother even knows.
Well, yeah, that's true. So while Fred is like pulling this little swapperoo with the baby, she sees Drew kind of near the situation room. So she's not 100% certain if Drew went in and saw like the scene of the crime. She doesn't know if Drew knows anything, but she begins to really obsess over whether or not Drew is like onto her. Later, Fred bites the maid's earlobe. Like Fred says something really weird and the maid like giggles and just says like oh, you're so weird, and then she bites the maid's earlobe, which obviously upset the maid because what the fuck. So Fred smashes a snow globe into the maid's neck.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then let's see. So fast forward. We are now at Christmas. Christmas festivities are occurring. Guests have come to stay at the house. One day during the Christmas festivities, a locket falls out of Drusilla's bodice. The missus picks it up, looks inside the locket, and it is a drawing of the painter. She then promptly drops the locket, slaps Drew across the face, and then smashes the locket under her heel.
Best decision so far.
Mr. Pounds downs a glass of wine before heading over to pick up the broken locket. He then instructs Drusilla to hold it. He then retrieves a hunting rifle. One of the guests tells him that this might end up being something he will regret. This might be something you'll regret later. Like, maybe you should put down the gun and not shoot at your young child. You might end up regretting that. So anyways, it's basically like the apple situation. He makes Drusilla hold the locket out and then he shoots it out of her hand. Obviously Drusilla is upset, so she like runs up to her room and Fred goes after her to like try to help console her. Fred attempts to comfort Drew, but Drew tells Fred that the painter has asked that she no longer contact him. Fred shrugs and says that he must have his reasons, and Drew confirms that he does in fact have his reasons, and that it's because he doesn't like when Drew bites him.
I was gonna say because she was too old.
No. Fred later finds a letter tucked under Drew's pillow. In the letter, the painter tells Drew that she displays character which is at best eccentric and at worst alarming. It is here that Fred tells us that Mr. Pounds is in fact her father, in case we weren't clocking that already.
Okay, just to confirm that Mr. Pounds is her father.
Correct, yeah.
So he's like lusting after his own daughter.
He doesn't know that she's his daughter, but yeah.
Yeah, because I had like a briefly thought that maybe like his the weird twist that like of course you'd land with your father.
She's actually been finding people with his last name and going to be their governess and trying to determine if that's her father or not, and then leaving.
Oh, girl has a plan.
Yeah, so like this is not the first Pounds family that she's pounded.
She's just been a Terminator after Sarah Connor until he finds the right one.
Yep, absolutely. Also, and I didn't realize this until I was reading back the script. Like, I didn't clock it, but he tells her that she has a wide forehead and her eyes are really close together. And then she later, when she's like, he's not really handsome. He has a wide forehead and his eyes are really close together.
Your skull is the exact same
and,
size as mine. Makes a lot
and then that was later, yeah.
I was just clocking they're both sociopaths.
And he is basically trying to be like, ooh, this means you might be my soulmate type of thing. And she's just like, no, you my daddy, but like not in a sexy way.
I'm glad she knows.
Yeah.
But also he's like, why not both?
Right.
Some Targaryen shit right there.
That's like your catchphrase at this point.
I know. I saw a whole video about the Targaryen lineage.
I love that for you. So anyways, that night the guests are awoken by the sound of a woman screaming. Everyone starts like kind of coming out of the hall. Like, did you guys hear that? Like, there's a lady screaming somewhere. And this is because Fred has killed the hall boy. Tells us that the attic is getting really full. So basically, like, she has decided to kill him. And he's in the throes of dying while everybody's like, who's that lady screaming? So everyone basically thinks that the house is haunted at this point. Like, all the guests think that the house is haunted, and shit, it might be enough people. But anyway, so everybody's just kind of like, where's the ghost? Do you hear the sounds in the night? And the sounds in the night is quite literally Fred just slowly killing people and hiding them in the attic and in the walls, because again, there's secret passages through the walls.
Hall boy?
I don't know, lighting candle. Maybe he sits outside, and if people leave in the night, he lights a candle.
Yeah,
or
people light candles and shit.
Yeah, I don't know. They said hall boy.
Just two words I've never heard together, so I don't know how to interpret it.
Yeah, I don't know. He was a boy in the hall, and she killed him.
Looking it up.
So anyways, okay, the attic's starting to get crowded. The next morning, the guests are sitting around. They're debating if it was in fact a ghost. The next day,
What's the smell not getting in?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big house, right? And it's drafty, so maybe... And it's winter.
Oh.
And not that things aren't going to be decomposing, but surely the attic is very cold, right?
Yeah.
So, let's see. We're kind of like flipping through like multiple days at this point. But the next day, Fred wakes up and realizes that she's in the stables. A horse... It has the word evil written on its ass in blood. She sees next to her a wrought iron pair of sugar nips, which I Googled before this, but it's basically like little tongs to pick sugar up out of a sugar bowl with.
Oh.
And it has the Pounds family crest on it. She then notices that she has something sweet in the back of her mouth, and so she assumes that it's a cube of sugar, but like how... that sugar would have dissolved like while you were sleeping, so that's a crazy thing to kind of think. Anyways, so she removes the item from her mouth and sees that it's a tooth. She's very confused. She's not sure if it's her tooth or someone else's tooth. She does notice that the tooth is very sticky, and so she assumes that she must have removed it with said sugar nips. She then thinks to herself that she really needs to stop drinking port after dinner.
Oh my god.
So anyway, she heads into breakfast. As she's going into breakfast, she buries the tooth out in the yard, and then she's sitting down, and as she's at the breakfast table, she realizes that she is in fact in possession of all of her teeth. She then wonders to herself if there are any other body parts hidden in the night. Like, she's like, did I bury anything else outside in that yard last night?
She gets excited because now it's just a scavenger hunt. It's Easter for
It's
her.
just a puzzle
right,
now.
right. And
Is Sherlocking homing her own murder?
yes, absolutely.
Awful.
So, at like a meal at one point, Drusilla is just very excitedly asking Fred what she's going to be wearing to Christmas dinner. And Fred was like, well, I only have like the one nice dress.
Is it safe to assume the son is dead?
No,
His son's not dead yet? Okay.
No, he's presently still amongst the living.
Okay.
Not for much longer, but he is in fact still alive. Anyway, so when the missus hears that Fred is just going to wear her black dress to Christmas dinner, she invites Fred over to her room so she can give Fred a dress. And Fred is like, oh, that's okay. I don't need a fancy dress. And she's like, well, it's a parting gift. Let's like leave on good terms. Let bygones be bygones. And then she tells the servant girl, can you go get the green dress? And then the servant goes, ma'am, the green dress? And then she's like, that's not what I said. And then the servant looks up at the sky and basically utters a prayer before going to get said green dress. And this isn't super, super important. Just fun fact, arsenic was used in green back in the day. So basically later Fred overhears the servant saying, isn't that the same color that killed that other lady like a little while back? And the missus is like, I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about, basically. So she has gifted Fred with this dress in hopes that it will in fact kill Fred. But as Fred is waiting for the servant to bring the dress back to the room, she notices a bunch of babies, like portraits of like dead babies, like Victorian death photography moment, sitting next to the Mrs. like vanity. And Fred asks like how the babies passed, and she goes on and like lists off like this and this and this and this. And then she said that Mr. Pounds doesn't like the portraits of the babies. He says that he never had to deal with it with the other ones. He was married before and none of those children made it out of childhood. But that mother didn't like to keep pictures of the babies, and so he's very offended that the babies watch him. He basically says that their eyes follow him because their eyes had been like painted to look like they were open.
Oh my god.
And so that's just a fun little fact about about our Poundses. So, Fred basically is up to more of her antics in the night. At one point, she goes into the walls, and then she pops out of the walls, and then she throws herself down the stairs, saying that, like, that is the noise that the guests have been hearing in the night. Like, every night, she throws herself down the stairs in such a fashion that her dress hikes up over her bare ass, and she just lays there hoping someone will come find her. Yeah, and this is when she, like, pops in and, like, tells the servants a story, and they're like, you're fucking weird, get out of here. Yeah, and so, at one point in the evening, she goes into the room where, like, all of the party goers are, and Mr. Pounds, like, sneaks up to her and ties, a scarf around her eyes, and then they are playing blind man's bluff, and then she finds Drusilla, and when she pulls off the blindfold, she hallucinates, stabbing Drusilla to death, with a paint knife. So fast forward to the next morning, after breakfast, Mr. Pounds is sneaking off from the table. He goes to the library. Fred follows him. She closes the library door when she enters. He is very excited to see her. She tells him that she would like to give him a Christmas gift, and he's kind of like, oh, you don't have to do that. And she's like, well, it's not a physical thing, it's my words, but they're really important words. And then he's like, oh, yeah, sure, okay. And then he, like, very much just, like, kind of turns around to get back to whatever the fuck he was doing. So she begins, like, talking to him, basically saying that she's been looking for him for forever. He is assuming that she's professing her love to him. But she's not. She's basically like, you my daddy. I've been, going to pounds, and I have finally found you, father. So let's see. He basically gets really mad at this and tells her to leave, basically saying, like, what we can manage through the rest of Christmas, like, I need you to get the fuck out immediately. And then he stands up and leaves the library and, like, goes back in with the rest of his party guests, I guess assuming that this clearly unstable woman is just going to, like, up and leave his house because he asked her to.
She's your own damn.
Yeah.
You crazy too, sir.
Right. So the next thing Fred is aware of is that she's in the drawing room, and Christmas carols are being played. Fred looks down and notices that she's holding a cleaver in her hand. She slowly stands up from her chair. She walks over to the woman who's playing Christmas carols on the piano, and she chops the woman's hand off. Everyone scatters. They're screaming. Fred tells us, one by one, they are killed, and it's absolute madness. As she comes across the Mrs. and Andrew, who are hiding in the nursery, Andrew just gasps and goes, "Mother, she's the cuckoo!" And then she shoots him in the head with a crossbow.
He's learning.
He sure is.
Well, not anymore.
Right.
Yeah, anymore.
So, Mr. Pounds was, like, hiding in the nursery behind his wife and child, and so he
pussy.
shoves them at Fred and takes off out of the room.
What the? I mean,
Yeah, shouldn't be. So he takes off running. So Fred basically corners him in another room of the house. He tries to reason with her, basically saying, like, "You're my daughter, you can have all this money." And she's like, "I don't want money, I just want a family." He's like, "Great, I've always wanted a daughter." And she's like, "You have a daughter." Like, what about Drusilla? And he's like, "She's not my daughter." So Fred
aren't even close to the same size.
Right. So then Fred shoots him with her crossbow and he falls over, but then she realizes that she only shot him in the shoulder, and she's like super, super disappointed by this. And
Come on, Fred, you're better than this.
quote, "At that moment, Drusilla springs forth between us, wielding a rapier like a fair-haired swashbuckler, emitting a cry fit for a launch into battle. Drusilla thrusts the blade into Mr. Pound's chest, straight through his heart. Fred hears someone moving in another room, to which she looks at Drew and yells, 'Tally-ho,' before rushing off. Fred tells us that on the first day of Christmas, they killed them all. On the second day of Christmas, they ransacked the house for the gifts meant for the servants. On the third day of Christmas, they sit each guest at the table as they begin to eat cake. On the fourth day of Christmas, they pillage the kitchen to find food. On the fifth day of Christmas, they find a maid who had been hiding amongst the corpses. They find her because they see her taking off running out the house down to, like, the neighboring farms, and she's, like, fully covered in blood. On the sixth day of Christmas, they free the horses. On the seventh day of Christmas, crows enter the house in search of food. Fred then turns one of the guests into a scarecrow. On the eighth day of Christmas, horses and foxes make their way into the house. On the ninth day of Christmas, Drusilla attempts to lure a house into the dining room, but the horse becomes agitated because the dining room, again, is full of corpses. On the 10th...
I'm not cool with this.
On the 10th day of Christmas, a woman from a neighboring farm comes and starts peeping through the windows. On the 11th day of Christmas, they realize that everything in the house is covered in ice because the fires have long since gone out. And then on the 12th day of Christmas, the police arrive. Fred tells us that the police find Drusilla and that she has tied herself to the oven. When the police come in, Drew is sobbing and begging them for help, and she just keeps repeating she killed them all. And then, let's see, Fred is led to the gallows. She's laughing the whole way there. Drew comes out and basically gives her final, like, testimony that, like, she came into her house, she killed everybody. And then the chaplain asks Fred if she has any last words, and she says it was grand. It was all grand. Fred then goes on to tell us that little girls everywhere will know that they can aspire to be killers too. It's not only for the men. And that is the end.
Oh my god. For some reason I thought Drew was also... I thought Drew killed her father.
Did she?
That's what I thought, but then also, was she having a grand old time the entire 12 days, or was she scared out of her gourd?
Right. Was she actually taking part in the murders, or was that a hallucination? Did she tie herself to the oven, or was she already tied to the oven?
I'm kind of thinking, I mean, strictly based off of everyone in the house being some kind of...
Yeah.
Wild. Like this, she's, what, 13? Something like that? Like, at that age where mental illness really starts to, like, develop. Not that it's like a hard and fast rule, but
it's typically around your mid-20s, actually, because that's like when your brain's like being fully developed.
Okay, I thought it was like
and like
teenagers.
you can have it as a teenager, but a lot of like you can start developing those bigger illnesses, but a lot of times you can't even be diagnosed when you're that young because your brain is still developing.
I guess that kind of makes sense. Just the normal teenage mood swings and everything
is demonic as it is.
Yeah, it's only going to be exacerbated if you have a mental illness coming.
Yes.
I guess it makes sense. You can't diagnose it so early, but
yeah,
it would start to rear its head. But
right. There are definitely like younger children who have
because I'm like, what? My anxiety really started soaring in my 20s.
Yeah, I think like typically like schizophrenia, I know, and I could be talking out my ass, so take this with a grain of salt, do your own research or whatever, but I think that schizophrenia typically like pops up around your mid-20s is when like you can be completely fine and then all of a sudden just start hearing voices. Yeah.
Medicated and living wonderfully.
Yeah, for sure.
Another note is like, these illnesses do exist, like psychopaths, sociopaths, like all this type of stuff exists, but it can be entirely managed.
Right. Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
I'm trying to just remember a quote. Mental illnesses are not your fault, but they are your responsibility.
Yes, absolutely.
I do that they're your responsibility. You get better or you don't.
Yeah, and like...
Well, not even that. It's just like, what you do with it is your choice.
Right. Like, I know for me, like, a lot of my... At least as much as I could, I bottled a lot of stuff up, which is why it's super uncomfy for me that there's, like, a kid I work with who... I get him, I see him, I vibe with it, but like all of the shit I spent so many years bottling up, he's just spewing everywhere, and I'm like, can you get the fuck away from me? Like, manage your shit before you come over here. I can't.
Stop spewing.
Right. But anyways, so there is a point at the end where Fred thinks to herself that like Drusilla, like she says something to herself like, Drusilla's better than me. She could figure out how to emulate emotions. So it is up in the air whether or not Drusilla actually was in fact a party to the murders. But as like Fred is dying, she like is kind of looking at Drusilla like, atta girl, you figured out the emotion part.
You're gonna be okay.
Yeah, you can do the thing.
And I mean that is in the sense of like, I'm okay.
Right. And there was like, so Drusilla was the eldest of the two. So there was like a lot of there was a one scene where Drusilla says that she wants to marry Rich, and Fred is like, well, your family's really well off, I'm sure you'll inherit a lot. And she said, well, there probably won't be anything left for me by the time he dies anyways. So that could factor towards like perhaps she was in fact doing the murder.
The whole inheritance.
Well, I mean, she would, right?
It's the only one I liked.
Yeah. But also just through the lens of Fred, she thinks that Drusilla was like an instigator of the relationship with the adult, which is probably a key factor that is not in fact the case. But also every time she tells the kids stories, the second she starts talking, they are immediately fully asleep. So it's like, were they even asking you for stories, or were you just like in there whispering creepy shit to them?
Probably should be fucking licking their fingers in.
Yeah. But no, that was a really fun book. And as I was writing this, I was like, shit, I think this is maybe a little too extreme, but I did skip over a lot of the gory parts. So if you listen to this and you thought like, wow, that actually sounds like a really great book, let me go pick it up, just know that it is so fucking incredibly graphic.
And that's like you reminding myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't read it. You're going to be so fucking
triggered. It's pretty gruesome, a lot of the stuff. And I did skirt around it as much as I could while still like relaying the story, because honestly, most of it is just Fred being absolutely out of pocket. But yeah, so that was Victorian Psycho.
I have thoughts.
Oh, thoughts. We like thoughts.
It took several minutes. Like, I know you said Pounds not being like their actual last name, neither Manners or whatever else, whatever other names there were. Me realizing that her last name also was not Naughty, but that's just how she like viewed herself.
Yeah, I'm assuming. It was Naughty, spelled Notty.
I had both spellings.
But yeah, I am assuming that those are names that she just made up for people.
Did you figure out what Hellboy is?
Yeah, basically just a young teenage boy who does random tasks around the house, the male version of a scullery maid, which I have heard of.
Okay.
Yeah, just do the things around the house. They work for like 16 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, thank you.
Yeah.
The letter didn't burn, the one that was sent by her father. I was trying to, like, that was the only kind of clue that there was something like actually like supernatural or something, or like she could be like the daughter of the devil, which debatable, but and it could be unreliable narrator, me not understanding the people's full story.
I think that was definitely more of an unreliable narrator because she took the letters not burning as a sign that her father was in fact the devil.
Got it.
But because her whole life people have been telling her that she's evil, I think that she was like, well, cool, let me go kick it with dad. So yeah.
I was trying to look up green dresses before you said the whole like arsenic.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it reminded me of Bare Naked Ladies. If I had $1 million, I'd buy you a green dress, but not a real green dress. That's cruel.
Yeah, that is. I'm almost certain. I have to imagine that is what that.
It's not.
Oh, that's weird.
Well, earlier in the song they say, "I'd buy you a fur coat, but not a real fur coat." That's cruel. When it came to actually recording, the guy messed up the lyric. It was supposed to be something about like a sensible neckline or something.
Oh,
but he said it as "but not a real green dress." That's cruel.
That's
like,
funny.
He just messed it up, and they're like, you know what? Keep that in. It's a reference to the other lyric. Doesn't make any sense. It's funny. We're funny people. We're bare naked ladies, and we're all men.
Good for them, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's all I got.
All right, cool.
All right. Anything else before I send us out?
No, send us out, Nick. She's gonna be so mad when she's editing this back portion and then like scooting everything around. You know.
Victorian Psycho, stay away from me. Victorian Psycho, yappa let me be.
That's my man right there. That's my man.
Go see Michael, only in theaters.
Bye.
Bye.
That was great.